After e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4, the Italian game is on the board. Black plays now f5, the Russo Gambit. The move we're going to go through in this short video is bishop takes g8 immediately. Okay, obviously now here we have to take the bishop with the rook. White has just lost the bishop pair. The reason why he did that is because he really hates knights so much that he wanted us to stop using the knight even when the knight was still sleeping in g8. No, I'm kidding. The reason is that, of course, this deprives us of the knight in f6, which is a very strong knight, and it's attacking the e4 square, which is the square that we're applying a lot of pressure to. Anyway, this is not good for white. And although it's a very popular choice, black only has a tiny advantage now. It's nothing incredible, of course. So let's see how to take the setup from now on. White's best move here is d4. This is the strongest move that white can play. The reason is white has given up developments, given up the developed piece, the bishop, for an undeveloped piece. The least he can do now is try to quickly come up with some more development, considering that, especially because he's the white player, so it's supposed to be more developed than black by default. Anyway, black now takes the pawn in d4, and after the knight takes back, now you take the pawn in e4. The black player shouldn't take the pawn in e4 first, because then knight takes back in e5. In this case, take the pawn first, and basically we're just going to try. Now the game is pretty open, and we got the bishop pair. That's how we're going to be winning this game. Again, the advantage is not massive, and there's too many things that can happen. It's an open game, and there were quite a few initial swaps. So for that reason, there's only so much I can show. So I'm just going to show how the setups look like and what more or less are going to be the ideas. But I can't really make a detailed video as I usually do. Anyway, let's look now at three potential setups. One of them is the move that we're all thinking about, queen h5. One of the reasons why this bishop c4 taking in g8 might be an interesting idea. Well, this is stupid, because there's nothing here. g6 attacking the queen, and after queen takes in h7 with an attack on the rook, rook to g7 attacking the queen. And now the queen will have to move, but there's no way that she can go. That also protects the knight in d4. We're going to win the knight. So white's best move now is to take our knight with an attack on our queen. So here we don't take this queen, because otherwise we lose our queen, and we're not really achieving anything. So we're going to take the knight, because this move that we just played comes with a tempo. It comes with a tempo on the opponent queen. So the queen will have to move again, meaning we can develop more. So there's no reason to swap pieces. Strong players don't want to swap pieces unless the advantage is good enough. So queen to h8 now, and now queen to f6, bishop to h6, attacking the rook. This will be a perfect chance for our opponent to swap pieces, because if we play rook to f7, our opponent might swap everything, and I think we're still going to win the endgame, because we have the bishop pair, but it's actually very equal. So here in this position, you play the standard move, queen to b2, boom, completely careless of what's going on in here. We're attacking the opponent rook. So let's say, if bishop takes rook for real, of course we can't take the rook, we don't want to swap, so queen c1 check. The king is forced to move to e2, and now bishop a6 check, and now there's nowhere to go for the king. The only move will be c4, but then bishop takes, checkmate, served on a silver plate with golden cutlery and a delicious dessert. And in this position, if instead of bishop taking rook, white castles first, now it looks like the bishop is truly threatening to take our rook. Well, now we take the opponent rook. Obviously, this is going to be met with bishop takes rook, but guess what now? Queen takes g7. Did you calculate what's going on here? Look, come on, let's count the pieces. Queen, rook, two bishops against queen, rook, and knight. Oops, we're up a piece. And in this position, after queen takes rook, what happens after knight to d2 with an attack on our queen? Queen to e5 comes now. And after rook to e1, threatening rook e4, winning the game for the white player. Black plays d5, protecting the pawn, and after f3, attacking the pawn further. Bishop e6, unpinning the queen. But after pawn takes, this doesn't do anything. Now we're going to castle long. Everything is safe. Position is completely won here. So we can move on and make a recap. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, f5. Okay, bishop takes knight immediately. Rook takes back, and now best move d4. We take the pawn, knight takes back, and now we take the other pawn. Got pawn advantage, but it's a boring game. So now we're going to go through another move, castle. Okay, d5 comes now, we've built our center, and this is here to stay. For more information, watch all the other videos about how to beat the Italian opening. You can find the playlist in my channel. You'll see how to master this incredible pawn structure. So we're going to look at this move now, c4, comes now with an idea. Taking this pawn, considering that we don't have the pawn in c6, as we sometimes have, to reinforce it. And now we're not going to have this very strong chain anymore, so c4 is an interesting move. How to deal with this? Well, very, very surprisingly, we take the pawn. So we are purposely going through a really bad pawn structure, but a winning endgame. The advantage is not that great as it usually is in all the videos that I make where I show how to take massive advantage from the opening. But sometimes you're facing an opening where your opponent made a few swaps at the beginning and the game can only get so sharp, but not too much. In this case, after knight takes back, you're forced to triple your pawns. Best move here, of course, is queen takes, rook takes back, and now we take the knight. We've got a triple pawn, but we're actually okay. Rook goes to e4, attacking 2 pawns, develop the bishop to e6, and protect this pawn. The idea would be, of course, to play bishop to d5, protecting both pawns, and the bishop is there to stay. It can never be attacked by a pawn. When a minor piece cannot be attacked by a pawn, it's sitting on a throne. But anyway, after bishop e6 and rook takes pawn, which makes perfect sense, it was also the reason why the rook went to d4 in the first place. Long castle. And now we will also assume that our opponent will take the bishop, and then we can checkmate. No, I'm kidding. Here, assuming that our opponent will see that this bishop cannot really be taken right now, what happens after knight to c3, developing move and also protecting the d1 square of back rank mate. That means that now the white player is actually threatening to take our bishop. Okay, bishop to d5. If white takes us, we can reunite the pawn and we're going to have a passed pawn. The advantage is already getting wider. After rook e2, saving the rook from the bishop, because we can assume that our opponent will not want to make our life easy by, yes, he might take our bishop pair, but then, it's uniting the pawn that he did his best to break at the end of the day. Black now plays bishop to c5, and after bishop to e3, we still have a pawn advantage, but this was white playing the very best move so far. In this faulty variation, black should be able to just be better for the endgame. Here we avoid the swap because we want to preserve the bishop pair, bishop d6, and this pawn here in a7 is not really a problem. If white does take that pawn, we are now equally material, but black plays bishop to f7. The idea is of playing bishop to g6 and plays the bishop in d3. So yeah, there's too many things that can happen now. The advantage is minimal. I don't think I've ever showed a video where the advantage was so little, but this is white swapping everything. However, this is just a nice perspective of a good endgame for black with the bishop pair. A move like rook e1 is really doing nothing because there's nowhere to go for these rooks. All these squares are attacked by bishops. If knight goes to e4, it looks like a nice improvement of the knight. Okay, rook g to e8. And again, taking our bishop just allows us to fix our pawns. But here white will have to be careful because I think taking this bishop will be the best thing to do. Rook e1 is not possible here because bishop b4 wins. And the reason is beautiful. When white moves, let's say, rook to c1, rook d1 is inaccessible, black simply wins with king b7. Boom, it's a beautiful move. The bishop is trapped. If bishop goes to e3, you can take the knight. If bishop goes to d4, you can take the bishop. If bishop goes to c5, you can take the knight. And the knight will no longer be protecting the bishop, so you're threatening to win the bishop for free. Rook takes knight, rook takes back, you win this bishop. If instead he takes your bishop, then you're taking the rook, which is even better. So king b7 wins. And in this position, even after knight takes bishop with check, and white really trying to swap everything, well, okay, let's take back. We're uniting the pawn, but we've lost the bishop pair, which means our advantage is really minimum. White does have a passed pawn, but so do we. So it looks like this might be heading to a draw. This is white playing like stockfish. You're not going to play against stockfish. You're going to play against another player. And the chances of your opponent being prepared up to move 20 and more than 20 with engine preparation against the Russo Gambit are literally zero. Even if rook to e1, now it's our turn to be annoying and swap stuff. Rook takes, and now rook d7 is the best move with an attack on the bishop. When the bishop moves away, rook to e7, pinning the bishop, and after king to f1, since the rook was going to be a loose piece in case of attack on the bishop, c3, and now best move. Well, obviously you're threatening bishop c4, winning the exchange right at the very end. So when the rook moves, you take the pawn, rook takes, and black, look, black's position is like minus 150 or something like that, minus 160. Black's best move now is c5, so we're going to close the line here and just say that, well, this majority isn't going anywhere because the pawns are not advanced at all. White does have a pass pawn, but it's not a dangerous one. This bishop is not as effective as our bishop at the moment, but like, look, it's little things, right? If your opponent is good enough, he might be able to draw, especially if you don't play extremely accurate. But this is to assume that your opponent will have played like stockfish all the way from beginning to end. So let me just show you one more line and then we'll close this video. After e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, f5. We're looking at this stupid variation with bishop takes knight back, and now d4, best move. Take the pawn, knight takes, take the pawn, and now bishop e3. This is not good at all. Black plays d5, and let's look at the setup I want to look at now is queen to d2, then knight, and then castle alongside. We haven't looked at anything like that at all today. And by the way, as mentioned in all of the other Italian videos, look, in this type of position you also have ideas. When you're done castling alongside, you can play g5, g4, h5, h4, and so on, and make this rook go on an open file. Bishop d6 would be an ideal move. The bishop's going that way, the queen is going to d7. So there's a lot of attacking chances to the king side. So let's look at what happens when white castle queen side. Queen d2, okay, we take the knight, and after bishop takes back, bishop develops to e6. Knight c3, queen d7, and after long castle, long castle. That's how the game goes, but the advantage is like almost -2, so it's better for black. After playing the best moves, king to b1, how to take it from here. Black plays this thematic move. We got this strong pawns in the center. Remember, e4, d5. It was annoying in the previous line where I showed what happens after c4. When c4 is played and black has a knight in c6, it's a very good move for white. The reason is we can't protect the d-pawn with another c-pawn, so nothing stops white from being able to give the c-pawn for the d-pawn. It's a really good move. Anyway, bishop g4 comes now, double attack over f3, so that's the thing. He can't play f3. So after rook d2, e1, moving the rook away, bishop f5, and now after knight d2, the idea of attacking our bishop, maybe try to take the bishop out, maybe go into f4, it depends. Black plays b6, stop the bishop's influence. And after knight g3 attacking the bishop, we play bishop to g6. We like the bishop on this diagonal. And a move like h4, by the way, obviously is met with h6. So you can keep the bishop on this square. Not h5, because you want to stay on this diagonal, but you also don't want to be forever protecting this pawn. You want to leave that pawn, you want to leave the pawn in h6, so you don't really ever have to defend it or worry about it. In h5, it will be kind of a loose pawn, it's annoying. So let's see a few more moves here. There's nothing to do. f3, you just take it, and the structure of our opponent becomes ugly. Also, if this pawn really goes away from e4, then our bishop becomes stronger. After rook h to f1, idea of playing f3 and maybe play the rooks on an open file. Makes perfect sense. Very human and very natural move. Bishop to d6. Black's advantage, like -2, -3, has been like this for a while. I'm just showing the best move by both sides. f3, how do we take it from here? Rook g to e8. Black's completely winning. It looks like white is going to take the pawn in e4, but now first we take the knight. White takes back, and now we produce a very strong pass pawn. It's an isolated pawn. It's a very strong pass pawn also because we have double attack on this bishop. We're going to win the bishop for free. c3 doesn't work because you can play c5. And when the bishop moves, you're going to have double attack on the queen and only one defender for white. Rook to d1 to put more defense doesn't work because of bishop to h5, winning the exchange. And then after c5 is played and you trade everything, you're going to go to the endgame, rook against bishop, and also better pawn structure.